All right, let's talk about something we all wish we had more of: time. And there's this really tempting idea out there, this promise that you can basically hack your life to get more of it. We're diving into the world of polyphasic sleep, this whole movement built around slicing up your sleep to max out your waking hours. So let me just ask you this. What if you could trade, say, 6 hours of sleep for 6 more hours of life every single day? I mean, the appeal is just huge, right? Think of all the extra time for work, for your hobbies, for literally anything you want. That's the big, shiny promise that pulls people into these alternative sleep schedules. But is it a promise that can actually be kept? So what's the big deal here? Why are so many people fascinated with this idea of, breaking their sleep into these tiny little pieces? Well, it really all boils down to that one incredibly powerful promise: more time. Okay, so what is polyphasic sleep really? At its core, it's this pretty radical idea of ditching one big chunk of nightly rest. Instead, you're supposed to take multiple, super short naps spread throughout the day. Some of the most extreme schedules, like the famous Uberman schedule, try to get your total daily sleep down to just 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours, taken in 6 little 20-minute naps. The whole goal is to maximize what they call sleep efficiency. And the claims that go along with this, they are frankly wild. Groups like the Polyphasic Sleep Society, they don't just say you'll get more productive hours. Oh no. They claim you can also improve your memory, boost your mood, dream more often, and maybe even live longer. It sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? Now, you'd probably think that the evidence for all this is just, stories people tell online. But as we were digging into this topic, we stumbled across something pretty fascinating: a student paper that actually seemed to back up these incredible claims. And this paper comes from a pretty surprising place: an English class. A student named Marilyn Yamamoto surveyed 88 of her fellow students, and she was trying to see if there was a link between how they slept and what grades they got. And what she found was pretty startling. The paper says, and I'm quoting here, it was determined through statistical analysis that polyphasic sleep is the best sleep pattern. Get this, the students who took multiple naps actually had statistically higher grades. So could it be? Could these proponents actually be right after all? Well, hold on. That's what happens when you survey a pretty small group. But what happens when you scale up, like way up? What does the wider scientific community have to say about this? To find out, we're going to turn to a massive systematic review. This was done by a consensus panel for the National Sleep Foundation. And look, this was not some casual glance at the research. This panel of experts screened more than 40,000 scientific publications. 40,000! They were hunting for even one piece of credible evidence about what actually happens when people follow these schedules. So after sifting through all of that research, a mountain of it, how many credible studies did they find that supported any of those amazing benefits we talked about? This many. 0. A big, fat 0. Not a single one. So what's really crucial here is the total contradiction between the claims and the actual evidence. Instead of improved memory, the panel found studies showing people on these schedules did worse on word recall tests. Instead of a better mood, they found, significant mood deterioration. And what about that higher productivity? Yeah, the evidence points to worse performance and a lot less vigilance. Okay, so theory is one thing. Let's dive into what happened when a research team tried to put one of these schedules to the test in the real world with a group of super motivated volunteers. This is where we get past the ideas and into what actually happens to people. The setup for the experiment was pretty simple. They got 10 healthy young adults, people who were so committed they volunteered for free, and asked them to try the extreme Uberman schedule for 8 weeks. Remember, that's just 2 total hours of sleep a day, broken up into 6 little naps. But the whole experiment it hit a major wall. And it wasn't because of their performance or their mood, not at first. It was about sheer sustainability. After just 1 month, check this out, 9 out of the 10 volunteers had already dropped out. That's a 90% failure rate for a group of people who were about as motivated as you can get. So why did they all quit? The main reason they gave was the absolutely devastating impact this schedule had on their social and professional lives. I mean, Think about it. Having to drop everything you're doing for a nap every 4 hours, around the clock, it just turned out to be completely incompatible with living in the modern world.
But the story doesn't quite end there. The researchers were able to closely monitor the one participant who managed to stick it out for 5 weeks. And what they found in him? Well, it reveals the deep biological cost of trying to live this way.
Now, at first glance, his cognitive performance seemed okay, but when the scientists looked closer, they found a really clear sign of impairment. On his standard test for vigilance, his number of attention lapses, we're talking moments where his brain basically just checked out for a second, went up by 75% compared to where he started.
But the truly shocking discovery, the thing that made everyone's jaws drop, came from his blood work. His body's production of a critical hormone had basically collapsed. It decreased by over 95%. This wasn't some small change. It was a near total shutdown of a vital biological process.
And that hormone was growth hormone. Now, it might sound like something only teenagers need, but in adults, it is absolutely crucial for regulating our metabolism, for maintaining muscle and bone, and even for protecting our neurons. And here's the kicker. It's released almost exclusively during the first few hours of deep, uninterrupted sleep, the exact thing that polyphasic schedules are designed to eliminate. So, what's the final verdict here? When we stack up all the enthusiastic claims against a huge, systematic scientific review and the results of a real-world human experiment, what conclusion do we come to? Well, the takeaways are really clear, and they all point in the same direction. First, those amazing claims of improved memory, mood, and productivity, they're completely unsupported by science. Second, these schedules are incredibly difficult to actually stick with in the real world. And most importantly, trying them carries some very real risks, from your attention just failing to severely messing with your hormones. It's exactly why that National Sleep Foundation panel unanimously concluded that this practice is just not recommended.
And that brings us right back to where we started, that desire for more time. It's powerful, it's universal, we all feel it. But the evidence really suggests that the time you gain by hacking your sleep like this isn't free. It's borrowed. It's borrowed from your cognitive function, from your social life, and from your fundamental biology. So maybe the question isn't just, can we get more time, but what price are we truly willing to pay for it? It's something to think about the next time you set your alarm.